Watcher. I am your guide through these vast new realities. Follow me and ponder the question, what if?
Welcome back to Maganda Forever podcast, everyone. I'm really psyched to talk about Suicide Squad. Man, it was such a good movie.
And wasn't as good as Black Widow, but it was up there. It's like Black Widow, Suicide Squad, Snyder Cut, Justice League.
Yeah, it was nice to get like a good comic book representation after WandaVision. It was such a letdown. All this hype, and then it went nowhere.
Loki hella sucked. That was crazy.
WandaVision was whack. Wolverine's whack, dude. He's not even a great superhero.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Maganda Forever podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Monica.
I'm Matt.
I'm Vince.
And today we're going to cover Long Halloween parts 1 and 2 and What If episodes 1 and 2. Going right into it, Long Halloween, I read this comic a long time ago. I completely forgot how much the Batman trilogy pulled from it, like Batman Begins and not so much
The Dark Knight.
Yeah, Batman Begins and The Dark Knight mostly, but not so much the third one.
Yeah, you can see some similarities with that. I didn't even realize that that's what they pulled from until like rewatching the movie or the animated movie.
Yeah.
Off the top, I can remember the scene with the money pile in the warehouse when they're tracking was it Falcone's money or was it Maroni's? Falcone's money. And the scene where they're chasing Harvey Dent in that police car. Like remember in the movie where and what else? There's when all three of them, Gordon, Dent, and Batman were on the rooftop and they were like making their pact. Yeah.
So real quick into the plot points. Spoilers, obviously, if you haven't read Long Halloween or if you haven't seen any of the Batman movies.
Dude, I read this and I still was like, who the fuck is the holiday killer? Like I hella forgot.
Until like halfway through the second part, I was like, I'm pretty sure it's this person, but I can't remember. And it wasn't until like the last 5 minutes.
I hella forgot what happened. I was confusing it. I was confusing it with Hush, I feel like.
Yeah.
Because it had the same kind of structure.
For me, mostly, I was like, I'm pretty convinced it's this person, but I don't know what their motive was. So it wasn't until the very end when you're like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, this story arc is about like kind of like Batman before he became a detective. Like he was already,
which is weird. Yeah, one of the lines that stuck out to me was like, I imagined doing this job. I didn't imagine I'd have to be like a good detective or something like that. And I was like, but this is in keeping, like the book was written canon, and part of his canon was that he trained with one of the world's greatest detectives before he became Batman. So he was already a seasoned detective. So it was weird to see him say that he wasn't a detective at all. It would have been like the book and the cartoon. I think it would have felt more Batman like if it was just testing his detective skills, not he had to become a detective in that.
Yeah. Because in the first movie, so Bruce said it, and then it's said multiple times by like Gordon and by Harvey Dent that like, yeah, you can't just like go out and like punch people. Like you have to actually do good detective work to keep them behind bars. So this whole movie starts with it's called the Holiday Murders. So like someone starts killing different mobsters and different people involved with mafia families on different holidays. So the first one was, I think it was Falcone, the Roman. His nephew was going to turn state's evidence and then like basically put all of their mob family behind bars. And someone found out and killed him. And then like it kind of goes back and forth between Falcone's family and Maroni's family, right?
Yeah.
I always get confused, like who's
Mascheroni.
Macaroni, spaghetti. It's like all delicious.
But yeah, so basically Falcone, he went in business with Bruce's dad, like back in the day, and they built a bunch of like charities and hospitals and stuff. So there's like this whole thing. It's like he's a known gangster, but he did like charitable work. So he's kind of expecting Bruce to help him like launder his money through the foundations and stuff like that. So that's kind of how he's tied in with Bruce and why he's such a focal point with like who's executing all these murders and who is like doing all these things. Because like I think it starts on Halloween with the first murder of his nephew, and then it continues like Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas.
I don't remember all the people who died or the
I wrote it down.
holidays. Yeah, we can quickly just mention those. We don't have to go too deep into that. Otherwise, it's gonna be a long podcast.
From what I remember, that part was also pretty accurate, like on the holidays.
Mhm.
But I don't remember if I mean, did Bruce's dad, did that whole thing happen in the comics too? Because I don't know if I remember that part.
I can't remember, dude. I read it so long ago, I could barely remember even the ending. So yeah.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, so the holiday murders started on Halloween with Johnny Vitti, which is the nephew, I think. And then there was like an explosion at Harvey Dent's house, trying to take out like him and his wife. And at this point, like Harvey is already the DA. So this is kind of like similar to Dark Knight Rises, where like it's basically Commissioner, well, he's not commissioner yet, but Gordon, Batman, and Dent trying to like take down all the mafia families. Thanksgiving was that whole fight scene with Mickey Chen. So Mickey Chen and his group get murdered.
Great fight scene.
A lot of the fight scenes are like really well animated.
Yeah, I really like
Oh,
like
sorry.
a lot of the action scenes I thought were pretty cool. And even like the artwork, it was kind of weird to me at first.
Yeah.
Like, 'cause I didn't think that
Shading.
with that side. It kind of looked like did you ever watch the show Archer?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, kind of did.
I never seen it, but that art style kind of reminded me of it. I don't know if it was like the same, maybe people kind of worked on it or something like that, but it was kind of weird at first, but I mean it worked.
It fit because the Long Halloweens is like the art style in that was very distinct. Like you look at those and you don't really see it like fit. It was like super noirish and like gothic. And
Yeah.
It's a lot of angles and like weird shading.
Yeah. Oh, one thing too that I don't know if we talked about this, but basically in the intro, the opening credits, I like how they showed like pages from the
yeah.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah. So their whole thing, yeah. So Halloween was Johnny Vitti, Thanksgiving was Mickey Chen, Christmas I think was Milos Grappa, and then New Year's was Alberto, which is significant because he is actually like the Roman's son. So
and at that point he was like Batman's prime suspect because he was being so mistreated by his dad. He thought that maybe he was the holiday killer. At one point they go into Arkham. What? Yeah,
I thought it was too. Like,
yeah, me too, which is a good twist. I mean, like you're supposed to get the audience to go there. At one point they went into Arkham because they wanted to consult the calendar man to see if he knew anything about it, which is very Hannibal Lecter-ish. And yeah, I forgot what Calendar Man said, but he was just being very cryptic. I don't even think he knew who it was. But then at that point, Joker escapes and he's involved in the story. I think it was the New Year's one. He like tried to kill hella people with like Joker gas.
Yeah, he got a plane and he was gonna fly over the parade or something.
I gotta say that I really love Troy Baker as Joker. Yeah. Like it's almost, you can almost barely tell the difference that it's not what's his name? Luke Skywalker. I forgot his real name.
Yeah. It throws me off though that Eccles was Batman. You could really hear.
Yeah, I didn't like Jensen Ackles as Batman.
Yeah,
he was like he was trying to force it too much. Jensen Ackles did Red Hood's voice in Under the Red Hood.
Yeah.
And he's one of the brothers in Supernatural.
And he's gonna be in The Boys season 3.
Oh,
yeah, I know that.
Yeah. Naya Rivera did a really good job as Catwoman.
R.I.P.
Yeah, I know. I was so sad.
I didn't realize who Gordon was. Like I didn't see a credit or couldn't tell his voice. So I'm surprised they didn't get someone notable for Gordon because usually they do. Josh Duhamel was Two-Face. He did a pretty decent job.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't the guy who played Polka Dot Man, wasn't he a voice?
Polka Dot Man, yeah, David DeSmalchin. He is Calendar Man.
That's what it was.
I could barely tell it was him. He was like, he did a really weird voice. It really worked. Like he's good at playing weird characters.
Yeah.
It kind of sounded like what's his face that played Lex Luthor, but didn't do like did his own thing with long hair.
Oh, Jesse Eisenberg?
It kind of sounded like his voice.
What the fuck is Luke Skywalker's name? This is bugging me now.
Dude. Oh my god.
Mark Hamill.
Mark Hamill.
Damn.
I was just gonna wait for it to like get at
Damn
you.
it. Yeah, so Troy Baker is his Joker. His laugh isn't as good as Mark Hamill's, but like the intonations is almost identical.
Anyway, but yeah, so there's this whole mystery. There's just all these calendar murders going on. At the end of part 1 was when Alberto died. So he was shot and then he fell off of a boat. And it was kind of, it reminded me of was it Charlie's Angels, where someone, oh no, it was
No, it
Rush
was,
Hour.
Yeah, Rush Hour.
Yeah, so when they fall off the boat and they're really alive.
Just about yet. And then she shot his ass.
But
And he was like, how ma? How ma?
yeah, that totally reminded me of that scene. But anyway, so their primary suspect is dead.
Fuck that. Let's talk about Rush Hour. So in Act 1, they were like,
So yeah, their primary suspect is dead. Harvey's kind of losing it because he was like, oh man, like that was our witness to really get the mob behind bars. And so they're trying to like scramble to find both the holiday killer and a way to like execute or get the mob behind bars. But since most of the victims have been mobsters, they're like, we went from trying to like defeat these people to protecting them. Like they're in protection now, like they have police detail. So it's like a whole like turning it on its head. At the end of part 1, Bruce meets Ivy at I think Alberto's funeral. So this is when Falcone like starts like hiring the rogues from Arkham, which is like super random. Part 2 picks up where Ivy was basically hypnotizing Bruce to sign over all of his assets to Falcone.
had him hypnotized. Hot, sicker than your ab. She was just playing Biggie in his ear.
Eventually Selena figures it out. And this is, at the end of part 1, like they broke up. She like realized that Bruce was Batman and their dualities would never work together. So they broke up, but she was still kind of like watching his back. So Selena appears periodically to like help him get out
She's
of
the hero of this story, bro.
Yeah.
She's coming in saving the. She's the one who led him to Falcone's money. She was
Yeah.
doing
Yeah, she did all the detective work. She found like piles of money for that Falcone was hiding. She saved him from Ivy by like kicking her ass.
Oh, I think I like their dynamic and how they
She was actually useful in this story. Like
Yeah.
in other Batman stories, she's just there as the
The love
sexual.
interest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then just to provide some kind of foil, but she actually like moved the story along and was a crucial part of it. So that was kind
Yeah.
of nice.
Bruce was like, I don't want a partner. And she was like, I just saved your ass.
even the scenes when they were I know this was in the first part, but just them like running on the rooftops and all that stuff. Like, I thought that was hella cool.
Yeah. So at this point, I think Ivy is in Arkham. He gets his assets back, like was able to reverse all of the stuff he signed over to Falcone. And then like Harvey starts to hear different voices in his head.
That's cool.
Yeah, so like he's still trying to like figure out who the holiday killers were, but like in the interim, Ivy had Bruce under her spell for 3 months. So it was just Gordon and Harvey that were doing all of the meetups and like trying to locate people. Like they found out the person who provides the gun for the holiday killers was murdered. So they're just kind of at loose ends, and then they don't have Batman to like help with the detective work.
You know what would be sick if Batman and Harvey Dent were on the roof and like they needed Gordon and they had a Gordon light and it was just like a huge mustache and glasses. Needed.
And they always see him, unlike Batman, where it's
He's like trying to sneak on the roof.
No, he's not even sneaking. He's like, hey guys. Like, okay, bye.
Where are you going? We're still talking.
Question: does in the comics, because you know how like Two-Face would be hearing the voice and stuff like that. In the comics, does it like ever explain if he's like schizophrenic or something, or like?
Yeah, so there was like he had like this whole backstory where he had signs of like I think being bipolar or something like that.
Okay,
It was
okay.
either bipolar or I think it was bipolar. And then when the acid got thrown on his face, that's when he like actually snapped. And that's when he started like he would say we, he wouldn't say I or me. He'd say we, and then the coin would be the actual deciding factor. In this story, the coin wasn't as crucial to his like process. In like the comics and the cartoon, the animated series, if he didn't have his coin, like he would flip out.
Well, also, I think there was one where like he flipped the coin and then he couldn't see the outcome and he like went into an episode. Like he's so obsessed with having
Oh, that's right.
what
Yeah, I
the
remember
result was.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Did a lot of like good foreshadowing and stuff about that.
yeah.
I think a part of his backstory was that he was like abused by his dad. I think. Don't quote me on that. I'm vaguely remembering.
Yeah.
Did he
So
get hit with like a sack of coins or something?
His dad would only punch one side of his face.
it's really literal abuse.
Oh, fuck.
So yeah, so Batman wasn't around for 3 months. There were still a lot of calendar murders going on with like, I think the last one he witnessed was New Year's, so he missed Valentine's Day. What was it? St. Patrick's, and then Easter.
They're digging deep. They were digging deep for holidays. But they're like, Ramadan? What the fuck?
But yeah, and then so Harvey was like, trying to like really get these people, and then kind of the last straw was that the head of the Maroney family was murdered on Father's Day when his son was going to visit him. And then little did they know that like the son was dating the Roman's daughter. So like when the head of that family died, he was like, oh, he wanted me to make peace with my enemy. And I realized that my enemy is you, Harvey Dent, as a DA instead of like the other family. Like, I'm going to work with you to get the other family behind bars. So he agrees to testify. If all of his men go away scot-free, he'll put the entire other family in jail by testifying. And then Harvey puts him on the stand and he lies. He's like, no, he's a great guy. Like the Roman, like he's great. I never did anything illegal for him. He's like, what are you doing? This is like a part of your, what's it called? Like the deal that we made.
That part was also like heavily copied in The Dark Knight.
Yeah. Yeah. And he was like, oh, my father sends his regards. And he like opens a bottle of like antacid, but it's actually like acid. He like throws it.
I think it was Glister toothpaste, dude. Oh fuck! I feel
That
dirty.
That stuff is not.
And then Harry was like prenuptial agreement.
Liar, liar. Liar.
Oh yeah.
I randomly watched it yesterday, so
Thought about that line. But yeah, so this whole time when like basically he's playing Harvey as a fool, he's like, did the Roman make you do this stuff? And then he was like, no, he didn't. And then the voice in the back of his head was like, double cross, murderer. Like, and you can see his eyes like get dilated, like he's gonna fuck him up.
I don't think he would have turned out as a bad a guy if it was halfway this way. Like if it was this half or this half. He just looked dumb.
What if they did that for COVID? Like his mask or his face was like
a mask.
He got an awesome free bleach job though. Just fully turned his hair white.
Got it straight down the middle. He did a great job.
Dude, imagine the tailor or something like Men's Warehouse when they're like, can I get half the suit?
And then half the other color. He found a tailor really fast.
Stupid.
But anyway, so the acid gets thrown on him. He gets put in the hospital, and then he escapes on his own, trying to find what was it? Oh, he was supposed to meet up with the Roman because like they already started suspecting him as the holiday killer. During that whole trial process, whatever, Batman found the guns that had been used in all of the murders in his basement. He was like, oh, Harvey never mentioned that he went to Oxford, because that's where Alberto went to school, and like possibly where they could have connected and like what spawned all the murders. So he's at large and people think he's dead because like basically the Romans set him up to be killed, but he murdered those men that were going to kill him and then escaped in the sewers. Somehow recruits Solomon Grundy. And,
Right. Some
um,
random characters in there.
Why is he in the sewers?
I don't know. Solomon Grundy.
But that was crazy, that scene when they like go over the bridge into the water and he just snaps a guy's neck in the water.
Oh, wait, who?
Harvey,
I don't remember that. I could barely remember it.
one of the hitmen. But anyway,
Batman have like some sort of mutual agreement with Grundy. Like they're like they have like a mutual respect for each other, kind of, where it's just like, okay, I'll leave.
they're reborn.
No, I
Yeah.
think that's the only way Batman can manage him.
Oh,
Because remember, he left him like some food.
Oh, on
And
Thanksgiving.
he's like using them. So he can't, the way Batman operates, if he can't like take them out, he's going to use them somehow or try to manipulate them so that they're not as big a threat. So I feel like he's making sure Grundy keeps to the sewers and then doing whatever he can to keep him there.
oh,
So yeah, so Harvey recruits Solomon Grundy, accepts that he is Two-Face now and not Harvey Dent, and then they go after Maroni, the guy who threw the acid in his face. And that's the scene from Dark Knight Rises where like there's a whole switcheroo of who's in like
Yeah,
what.
right. That's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, and then so they're able to like, it turns out the guard that was inside with Maroni was actually Batman in disguise, so they're able to confront Two-Face, like try to talk him into like going peacefully, because they're like, he's my friend, he needs help. Like they're both trying to what's it called, not reconvert, but like just help Harvey instead of like letting him go on a murder spree
and Batman was wearing the mask
under his
underneath.
mask.
Yeah, dude.
That was all funny, dude. Like, how do you hide the cowl? Like,
It's fucking hot.
But while during this confrontation, the actual holiday killer pops up, kills Maroni and escapes, and then Two-Face like delays them by fighting them so that they're like, oh, he wasn't the holiday killer, but he's protecting the holiday killer. So like both of them are still at large. It ends with the Roman, like he's still trying to use the different rogues, but they're all doing their own thing. Like they're kind of mercenaries for hire, but they also just want to cause chaos. Yeah, so the Roman kept trying to like he hired Scarecrow to try to like do something with his money or something like that, and then like just trying to use the rogues for their own personal gain. But then they ended up turning on him, and they like partnered up with Two-Face in the end. And then there's like this big old rogue showdown between Batman, Catwoman, Ivy, Hatter, Scarecrow, Joker, Solomon Grundy. Who else was there?
Dude, I can barely remember this. I think I might have been like too doped up at this part. How did Batman and Catwoman beat all these people? I can barely remember this.
Dude, Catwoman was handling everyone. Like I feel like Batman barely fought anyone. It was mostly Catwoman.
I feel like, yeah, I distinctly remember that. Yeah.
So you find out before this showdown that he was like, why are you so involved? Like, why are you so invested in finding out what's going on with Falcone? Like trying to ask Selena. And she was like, I never knew my mother, but I have a feeling someone does. And then she looks at the Roman and he was like, that's your father. So
right.
like the Roman had an affair, I guess, with someone, and it turns out to be Selena's mom, and he doesn't know her name.
it was a cat. He had an affair with a cat. Is that part true though? Like
I don't know if that's canon.
because I don't know.
At the end of the showdown, like they're able to take down all the rogues, but then Two-Face is still able to flip his coin and decided to kill Falcone. And then like during that scuffle, like trying to, I think Selena attacks Two-Face, and then Batman's trying to like hold the wounds closed until they could get help. Falcone's daughter like wanders in, and then she goes crazy, tries to also beat up Two-Face, and then she ends up falling out of the window. And then Falcone, like his, what was it? His son, his daughter, his sister, like basically all of his family died. So he was like, oh, I'm fine. Like, you don't have to hold on to me anymore. But I guess when Bruce was a kid, that's when he met him for the first time. So they kind of like,
Oh yeah, that's great.
His dad fixed 5 bullet wounds in the torso on his table at home. What the fuck? You got blood transfusions there? What's going on? That was fucking
not out of the
crazy.
woods, but he can speak perfectly to my son hiding in the library.
Yeah, fucking shot with a BB gun. But that's the subplot where we see the Roman gives Bruce a coin. That's a double-headed coin, and that's the coin that Bruce, or as Batman, eventually gives to Harvey when they're trying to decide whether to burn Falcone's money or not.
Is that true?
I don't know. I don't know how much of that is canon.
I don't know, but they said 2 heads are better than 1, and Falcone teaches him that like you only take what you like you only get what you can take in this world. So that's why like Batman was still trying to like save his life, even though he had 2 gunshot wounds to the neck.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And he was like, do you still believe that like what I taught you as a kid? And then he was like, yeah, I still believe that. And that's like, I guess them making amends or something. It was a weird ending.
Thomas Wayne brought in 50 Cent on their table, bro.
But even like Bruce was asking Alfred, like, how could my father like have made deals with the devil, basically? Like, does the end justify the means? And then he was like, they were young and they were like still making their own way in life, so like they tried to make amends for the mistakes that they made, and they're human basically. And Bruce was like, I keep trying to live up to them and make them proud, but what if I'm actually trying to redeem them instead of like upholding their legacy or whatever? And then Alfred was like, I think that would make them proud of their actual legacy, their son. So it was interesting. We find out in the end that Two-Face decides like, I have to face justice. I killed the Roman, and I did all the holiday murders. It was me. So they take him in, and then later Batman confronts Harvey's wife, and she's saying like, you knew all along, like Harvey never went to Oxford, it was me. And like it turns out that her and Alberto were like super in love, and they got pregnant and they got married in secret. But then because it was an out of wedlock child and she's not with the mafia, like the Roman didn't approve of their marriage, so he forced her basically to have an abortion and to annul their marriage. And so she just like went to Gotham, married someone who would give her justice against their family, and like basically like decimated their family.
This frail fucking 70-pound woman.
Yeah, looked like a husky guy.
She's running everyone's shit in, dude. I was like, I was running the footage back, and I'm like, this is clearly a dude.
Yeah.
She does not look like Gilda Dent. What is this?
The ending is that Harvey goes to jail for all the murders, even though Batman knows that the wife is actually the murderer. And she's like, are you going to tell Gordon? Are you going to take me in? And he's like, I need to know that the holiday murders are done. She's like, not done. They're finished. Like her whole goal was just to ruin their family. Because she, in the end, she didn't even like regret killing Alberto, even though they were like super in love, because like he left her and she had to
he went along with what the Roman wanted.
Yeah, so they like annulled. She was like, he didn't hesitate to marry me when we found out we were pregnant. We were so happy. And then when the Roman said no, like he went along with the annulment and the fact that they like scooped the baby out of her body. They're
like, we could only save half its face. She's like, no.
So she's still like free, I guess. And then you find
that man didn't do any detective work, bro. He was just like waiting until there were no, like, very little suspects.
Yeah.
Who else could it be at that point? Is it Gordon? It's so dumb.
But in the end, Batman ends up back with Selena. I guess they like made their peace in their in a relationship again.
He's like, put on the Robin costume for me. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a quick and dirty recap, kind of messy recap.
No, that was good. That was a good recap.
Okay.
One of my favorite parts was when all of the rogues broke out to like pair up with Two-Face to go after Falcone. They're like, oh, everyone's invited to this party. And then Scarecrow was like, not everyone. And Calendar Man's the only one who's still he was like, I meant heads. I meant heads. So he lost a coin toss.
Definitely, if you want to get the gist of the story and you only have like 2 hours, definitely watch the cartoon movie. But if you want the full like immersive experience and narrative, check out the comic books. It's really good, especially the artwork, very distinctive.
Yeah. There was also a end credit scene.
Oh, that's right.
I forgot about that.
What else? What could that lead to? Or is just like a friendly like?
I don't know.
Service?
I was just about to ask, like, what do you guys think that will play into, like, for the next, I guess, movie or
I
something?
don't even know what's slated to come out, but basically the end credit was that it was Halloween again, right? And then there was a ring at the doorbell, and then it was Flash and Green Arrow there at Batman's door. So it's reminiscent of like Batman Brave and the Bold like type story where he's pairing up with somebody to solve like some kind of crime or something.
Mm.
You're a terrible detective. Can you help us?
Can you stick around till all the murders are done and then point to who it is?
We're actually here for Selena.
That's all funny.
I know that they're making an Injustice movie, but I kind of doubt that this is going to lead into that. But maybe somehow they tied in. I don't know.
This movie's gonna lead into a wow, 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 wow. Isn't part 2 still gonna come out?
Oh, that's right. What was that? Oh fuck. Batman Heart of the Dragon or something like that? Soul of the Dragon. Anyways, yeah, great movie. Even better book.
Yeah.
Overall, I did enjoy it, and even though we all pretty much read it a long time ago, it still had us like kind of guessing, like
who is it? Like,
I think the reason I was getting caught up is because it was so similar to Hush in that you're guessing who the killer was. The only thing in Hush that got me confused in this one is that in Hush, it was multiple people being Hush at certain points. And so that part, I was like, are multiple people being Holiday Killer? Because at some point, it was being hinted that Harvey might have done some of the killings, I think.
Yeah.
They thought that he did the Mickey Chen one.
Okay, yeah. So that's what was throwing me off.
Yeah. And the only reason why they thought he did Mickey Chen was because Mickey was the one hired by the Roman to blow up his house, and it could have killed him and Gilda.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were like, oh, did Harvey tell you that it was me? And he was like, Harvey didn't give you away. It was the fact that like when both of you were there at the same time and you killed Sal Maroni, he was like super protective, trying to get me and Gordon not to follow you. So he like at some point like found out that she was the killer.
It was Gilda, but then Two-Face found out that it was her, and then he like kind of went along with it, and like
I think by the time him and what's his face, Solomon Grundy did that confrontation, like that's when he was like, oh, it's for sure Gilda. So yeah. So
you know what should have been a hint from the beginning is that the silencer was a baby bottle's nipple.
Yeah. So it was like a specialized gun, and in order to fashion it as a silencer, they put a baby bottle's nipple on every gun, and they left that gun at every crime scene with like a little, like the first one was Halloween, so it was next to a jack-o'-lantern. And then for like Mother's Day, there was like a box of chocolates that said Happy Mother's Day, or no, it was like a little floral arrangement that said Happy Mother's Day.
So each holiday, it had some type of symbol on there, along with the crossed off serial number gun with the nipple on.
Yeah.
She must have bought like 40 guns, bro. That's not cheap.
He must have bought 40 nipples also.
Well, that's cheaper considerably than guns.
Costco, dude. They didn't you buy them both.
Harvey's all, where's my duct tape? Like, I don't have any of it. all my masking tape is gone. It's like she put that shit on every handle.
On the hand grip. Well, also like, so Harvey never had an issued weapon, or like they didn't approve him to receive one. And then so
Oh, that's right. It was revealed
Gordon
that they
gave
did a
him a
background
gun.
check.
Yeah, Gordon gave him a gun because he was like, you need this for your protection after they like exploded your house and like keep going after you, and we're gonna keep pursuing them. Like you need protection for yourself. So he actually gave his gun to Dent, but then like it was interesting because he's the DA, but he didn't get approved for a gun. Like,
It was revealed in the story that they did a background check and there was something psychological why he couldn't get a gun.
yeah, something like that.
So that was the hinting at there's something
Background
deeper.
checks.
He can only get,
They
he
do
can only-
that in Gotham.
What do you
Yeah.
say, Vince?
I think he can only get half a gun.
Gun. You want the trigger or the barrel? Come on, guy.
No, it's just a full gun, but it's in half.
Oh, that way. Okay. I don't know which halves you're going with. All right, let's get into what if, guys. What if? That is, we're just having like a great week of cartoon productions.
Yeah.
DC's always reliable in that field, but what if it was just like, yeah.
So
I gotta say, the first episode was just okay to me, but when we get to the second episode, like I was really feeling it. Not just because it was Chadwick Boseman and he had passed, but the episode itself was just well written and just
Yeah.
narrative was great.
yeah.
I saw some like pretty much what you were saying, Matt. Like I saw some people online saying that the first episode was like kind of but I actually really liked it. I thought they started off good. Like I really enjoyed.
I think the reason I felt that way and a lot of other people felt that way is because the premise wasn't as standout-ish. Like maybe they should have started with a Chadwick Boseman one. That one is kind of like more what ify feeling.
I
But like,
feel like they
yeah.
started with the one that they started with because it's the first Avenger.
That's what. Yeah.
All right.
The base already.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
think what they're trying to do pretty much just like what Monica was saying or hinting at is because it was the first Avenger, and then they're eventually going to kind of have it similar to the movies like in the MCU where like starts off with Captain America and then it'll lead to other movies which will then lead to an Avengers one. Avengers
Oh,
if.
that's dope. All right, I got a project for us to do while we do this recap and review. Think of your own what if story that relates to the MCU. Like,
It's gonna be hard.
'cause
to get the recap.
it's clear, yeah, right on the spot. It's clear that they're not doing the what ifs from the comics because it wouldn't make sense. Like,
Yeah. There's I remember that there's so many.
there are, and it like obviously it's meant to spin off of whatever canon they're referring to or referencing. So it wouldn't make sense to have a what if Punisher killed the entire MCU in this iteration, even though I would love to see that shit.
But
Yeah.
I think also the director said that because of the outcome of Loki and even the beginning, so it starts with a narration and the narrator is the Watcher. It says all of these are canon. It's all different multiverse storylines. So
Yeah, sorry.
they, like you said, they could have a culmination where all the timelines meet in the animated universe, but they could also bring them into like any kind of like in-person live action movie also, because they're going to be crossing timelines soon.
Yeah.
So the premise that the Watcher lays out is that time is not linear. It's a prism where like multiple different things happen, and even the slightest decision can create a whole new universe than what we know. And it's basically restating what we learned from the TVA, where it's like you could have variants, and like if you deviate from what the timeline is, then it branches and creates a whole new timeline. But the Watcher says like, I watch and I observe, and I never, ever, never get involved. So he's like,
I never get involved unless I'm getting punched by the Red Hulk in the face. Do you remember that shit? That shit was wild. Oh, it was in the comics when like Red Hulk was going berserk and he was like tearing everyone's ass in. And like at one point, the Watcher was doing his whole spiel, like, "Oh, at this point, what?" And then Red Hulk just comes out and punches the Watcher in the head.
Just a quick question on the Watchers. Do they see what's already going to happen, or do they just see what is currently happening? Like they
That's a
don't.
good question.
I thought they observe in the moment. So this is different in the TVA, where it's not like they're the almighty beings that created the whole timeline. They can see like the past and the future. I think they go into that moment and they can see like what progressed, and then like they can compare it to like what happens in other universes and stuff.
Okay. And then also now I'm just thinking of this now, but like are the Watchers, what's their power level compared to like the Celestials or the Eternals, or like how do they rank?
It's hard to gauge that because they don't interact, they don't intervene. So like it's tough to see how powerful they are because they're just observers. They don't take any part in shaping anything. So they could be very well more powerful than all of them because ideally they're supposed to be invisible and unnoticeable to the people they're observing. In the comics, Red Hulk punched one. So I don't know if that's very representative of their power level. But since they're observing multiple timelines, it would stand to reason that they're probably more powerful than anyone who's confined to a single universe.
Because they
Like
can go
any other multiversal beings are probably on the same level as the Watcher.
So then do you think the TVA or whatever, like, do you think they know of the Watcher, or are they being
That's a good question.
watched by the Watcher,
I think
or
the Watcher was probably observing. I don't know that they knew that they exist because again, they never interact.
Yeah, because
There was a lot-
the TVA, any given TVA is part of one universe. They're
Yeah.
aware of the other multiverses, but they don't they can't watch all of them.
oh, I get what you mean.
A long-standing fan theory for the MCU was that Stan Lee in all of his cameos was actually a Watcher because he would appear in like every little thing and like he doesn't affect the story, but he's like, oh, like everyone,
Yeah.
whatever. But yeah, so the whole spiel is like basically him like, let me tell you a tale of like the smallest thing that could change what we know, and ponder the question, what if? So the first one was, what if Peggy Carter was the first Avenger? So everything was happening in the episode similar to what we know from Captain America and the first Avenger, where like they pick Steve, he's gonna go into the machine. They ask Peggy like, oh, wouldn't you be more comfortable in the booth? And she decides to stay at the ground level when he's gonna go into the machine to get all juiced up. And she sees someone take out a grenade and like, or it was like a sparker, like I don't know if he planted some kind of explosive, but like basically he set the whole lab on fire and started like shooting people. At one point he actually shoots Steve himself before Peggy's able to take him out.
That motherfucker lived.
Yeah.
Come on, he already has asthma and all these other afflictions. How did he survive a bullet, fam? They should have just put him in the fucking chamber. He would have survived that shit.
That's what I was asking. I was asking Mar when we were watching. I was like,
The bullet would have came out buff. It's like, oof.
it would have come out as like a bazooka round, like.
No, I think it was Thomas Wayne. I think he gave his life in the library.
Give him the 50 Cent treatment, bro. Just put him on a wooden ass table and took out all the bullets.
But I was asking Mark because I was like, because he was shot like 2 or 3 times in the gut, so he would have lived long enough to like get help. But like if they had put him into the machine to actually, because basically the person tried to steal the serum and then take everyone out so that only that one canister survived, so that his like whatever government he was going to sell it to could remanufacture it for a whole army. So Peggy shoots him, puts it back in, and they're like, we're gonna lose this, like get Steve in there. He's shot, like what's his face, Stark's dad, Howard. They're like, you get in there. He's like, I just pushed the buttons. And so Peggy's like, well, we're gonna lose this project. Like she just decides to jump in there herself because she's
It would have been sick if they put Dr. Erskine in there if he didn't die. He's a big ass scientist. Oh, for this equation, he's just a big ass buff dude. It's useless in a fight.
But yeah, so Peggy gets in there. I asked Mark because I was like, if he was shot and they put him in the chamber, like, yeah, his like physically he would have gotten strong again, but then could his body handle the stress of like that blood loss and the injury in addition to like the like all the super
Never know.
So Peggy comes out buff.
She came out looking like Gina Carano in Deadpool.
Yeah, she's huge, dude.
But she's like, oh, I'm gonna like, she's ready to fight on the front lines. And then it turns out that the general was like, this was a colossal waste. And she was like, well, we would have lost the project. She's like, we lost it already because all it's good for is like it's in you and you can't fight on the front lines because you might break a nail. And she's like, I'm better than a pincushion. So they're like taking all of her blood to like try to remanufacture the serum again. We find out though, that
he has
Steve,
ovaries. Oh, sorry, keep going.
Steve survives the gunshot wounds, and I like that they reanimated his frustration with the punching bag and throwing weights around with Peggy, like fighting the punching bag and throwing weights around.
See, that's part of the reason why I didn't like this one, because it wasn't that imaginative that it was Peggy instead of Steve. And like Peggy, yeah, she's a woman in the 40s and that's hard, but like she's still tough and strong. Like she could hold her own. Like Steve is just getting shit on all day long, dude.
I also really liked the parallels that they did, like what Monica said, like the punching bag. There's a lot, and we'll go into them too, but like there's a lot of cool, I thought, like kind of Easter eggs to Captain America and stuff.
Yeah.
I
liked it. But yeah, basically they're telling her like, you're a woman, you can't fight. And like the serum is wasted on you. So we're just going to take your blood and run experiments. And then Steve was like, hey, it could be worse. Like he could put you on one of those, like basically what happened to Steve, where he was just like a monkey, like going around like, hey,
he got a great ass song, dude. Star Spangled Man, that shit was fucking fire.
One thing also that we didn't mention yet is that in this show, which is one of the cool things I also like about it, is that they have a lot of the OG actors voicing their same roles, but in same characters, but different roles.
They didn't get the Star Spangled Man though, god damn it. That's not Chris Evans.
No, it wasn't.
But
Chris
they did.
Evans'
They
voice.
got Stark. They got Erskine.
They got they got Sebastian Stan to revoice Bucky. Right. They got what's his face from the Howling Commander.
They didn't get Dugan. That didn't sound like
Dugan.
Him. Look it up.
Okay.
It did sound like him. I don't know if it but they also have, that guy who was hella mean to Peggy Carter.
The general.
The general, yeah. So he was in
dude, I was hoping for Tommy Lee Jones. That would have been so great.
He's like, you're lucky to be in the room.
You're breaking my heart. Get this kid a sandwich.
The general he was in the Agent Carter show too.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. So I thought that was kind of cool. One thing though, like, I don't know if it's the same with you guys, but one of the things that I kind of didn't like, but maybe I'm just not used to it, but like the voice acting for the actual actors to the cartoon, I feel like sometimes it just looks kind of weird to me.
You know, I remember you telling me, and we can get into it, for Chadwick Boseman's voice acting, and you said it sounded higher. The reason I feel like the voice acting sounds different than the movie voices is because the movie is gritty, and so it fits that like tone. But like in the cartoons, because it's animated, I think they tell the actors to pitch it up a little bit just so it fits the animation. Because if you hear like T'Challa's raspy ass, "I'd never freeze" in like a cartoon voice, it wouldn't match as well.
Yeah. Also, I don't know how many not that they would need that much work, but I don't know how many of these actors have done voice acting before, because it is.
I think like after watching the second episode, I got what you were saying, Vince. It did sound like super higher pitched, and it kind of like at sometimes you were wondering if it really was Chadwick Boseman, but I feel like it fit the animation style better.
I agree.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think
maybe
it could be a combination of like director's discretion and just like experience doing that kind of work.
I don't know. It was just at first it was kind of weird to me. Like it didn't match. Like even with like Peggy Carter or like Sebastian Stan, like obviously they're really good in the MCU and like that acting, but like maybe even if none of the actors were in the What Ifs, I think it would have been cool too. Like just the actual different voice actors, you know, like maybe it would have.
Cool they did that, but even if they got new voice actors, it would have been just as
fine.
okay.
Yeah. It was not the same person I thought it was.
Neil McDonough is his name.
Yeah, I thought it was, but I don't think it was. They did get Nick Fury though.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. Sam Jackson was in there. I remember that at the end. That wasn't Jeremy Renner though.
I think it was.
It was.
Like, it was? They're like, damn, can you come back and say 2 words?
It was.
Good for him.
And so, oh wait, no. You said Neil McDonough. It was him.
Oh, it was?
It was Dum Dum
Okay,
Dugan.
well, it was, and they got Jeremy Renner,
Yeah.
but they couldn't get the Star Spangled Man. All right.
Maybe he was because I think he's also working on other movies.
Yeah.
And he should have played Steve using the Joe Biden old man Cap voice. No, I don't think I will. It's like, what, dude? You're like 20.
But anyway, so yeah, so Peggy gets injected with the serum. She wants to do more good, and then they find out about the Tesseract and that Hydra was able to acquire it, and she was like, this is gonna make the difference between the war. And that stupid general keeps saying like, you're lucky to be in the room, you don't have a voice, like, no, we're not gonna do that. And then Howard was like, oh, I revamped the suit that you're gonna wear on tour for like actual like fight capacity. And I like that they call her Captain Carter, because you can't do Captain Britain.
Captain Britain, yeah. What are you gonna call her?
She already exists. But yeah, so she
Captain Fish and Chips.
so she has a shield, and it's of course like the flag for England.
The suit was dope, but I gotta say, if she did have a cowl, like a helmet, that would have been even doper with the hair flowing out. That would look sick.
That
I've
was
seen a concept art. I don't know how legit that is, but she
Oh,
does
for real?
with the hair out. Yeah.
Oh my god, that would have been so sick. But
It
yeah,
looks pretty dope. I don't know why they didn't go with that. Well, I mean, I don't even know if that's real, but it looks cool.
so Peggy goes undercover by herself, was able to acquire the Tesseract and what's his face? Zola. And
was that Arnim Zola's voice actor? We gotta do this for everyone now.
it was is Toby Jones.
Yeah, that's him.
Yeah.
Oh shit, they got a lot of people back.
Yeah. So they're able to get the Tesseract.
Was it the Tesseract's voice actor? I'm just playing.
And then Howard was like, oh, I know exactly what to do with this. And he basically builds a rudimentary Iron Man, but it looks like War Machine. And he sticks.
No, it looks like Mark 1.
Yeah, it looks like
yeah,
looks like
you're
Iron
right.
Giant Mark 1.
It looks more like Mark 1. You're right.
So basically he becomes Iron Man, which is fucking dope.
I like that twist. I wasn't expecting that. And it's powered by the Tesseract instead of the arc reactor. So basically like Peggy and him start going on missions together. Steve says repeatedly like, oh, at least like you're doing some good. I'm still like whatever. And then she was like, oh, the machine would be nothing without the man inside. And he tells her about Bucky and his battalion. So it's
sorry, I want to cut you off. That part was kind of funny to me, that she's telling him it matters who the man is inside. But in the first Avengers, when Steve and Iron Man were feuding, he was like, you're just a guy in a suit. So it's kind of like a nice juxtaposition there. Anyways, keep going.
Yeah. So it's the same thing where the 107 gets captured behind enemy lines. It's different in that like Bucky's not being tortured when they happen upon them. He's like in the cage with Dum Dum Dugan and the other commandos.
Hey yo, so that means he doesn't become Winter Soldier or like have any powers or super serum in this one.
like he still might. I don't know. You never know. But yeah, it basically is kind of pointing towards he doesn't.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Who would be the Winter Soldier then? Because it doesn't show like Peggy Carter having a friend, like how Cap and Bucky were friends.
Wait, hold on. At the end, doesn't Steve fall into the snow?
No, but he comes back.
Oh, that's right. Shit. If he became Winter Soldier, that would have been
I
sick.
thought he was going to. So we'll get to that. So they are able to rescue Bucky and all them. And they're like, since when do dames fight like that and whatever? And then she like kicks ass. I really like the different animation for the fight stuff. And they still kept to the Captain America movies are really good at like spy stealth, which is kind of what I wanted for Black Widow. But they carry that over in this episode where like every time Peggy's executing something, like it's very stealth and like spy-esque, where she can like get in places and execute quick. So they get freed, and then it's the same like train thing where we lose Bucky in the movie, but instead the explosives go off and Steve falls with his suit. And then they find out that Hydra has a Tesseract. They don't know if Steve survived at all. So they're like, well, we have to get the Tesseract back. Like, this is the end of the world. Like, we might not, if we don't succeed here, we might not like win the war, but we definitely need to defeat Hydra where they stand now. And it turns out that Red Skull was using the Tesseract to open a portal to get an actual Hydra, like
Yeah, that shit was.
some tentacle monster.
Was it Hydra? There's some theories that it's actually Shumagarath.
Oh shit,
Okay.
man, the Pussit monster. Let's go.
Delicious. So when they get to the castle to where they're opening this portal, Bucky's like, you go high, I'll go low. And then so Bucky and Dum Dum Dugan find the machine, and next to the Iron Man suit, Steve is actually still alive. So he's like, get me in there. Like, the generator that I guess the suit is connected to is enough to power it, even though the Tesseract's not inside it anymore. So he like flies up to try to help Peggy, and they both try to take out the monster. Red Skull gets crushed by it, of course. And then Howard is trying to like close the door, but the monster's holding it open. So this is where we get the similar, like, Peggy and Cap never get their happy ending, because Peggy's like, I need to do this, and she pushes the monster back. We get that same dialogue with like, you owe me a dance, but for Steve it's like, you owe me a dance lesson or something, because he said he's a bad dancer. She said, I'll see you on Saturday.
He has a sword too,
Oh yeah, she gets a sword because they're in a castle.
which
And she starts chopping some of the tentacles while she's trying to fight it back.
people are also saying that that's actually Excalibur, and like
Oh, nice.
there might be a bunch of different Captain Britons, because I guess in the comics there was like a storyline where there's different multiverse Captain Britons, and then a lot of them have a sword.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's interesting though. It was nice because she had the sword, and at one point she did have a gun, but she used the sword more. So it's like sword and shield.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. So
Like
there's
that.
that one scene too. There was that one scene too, when she freed up the commandos, when she like they all busted out of the doors, and then she was like, she had the shield and she was shooting people.
Yeah.
And that
Oh yeah.
was like in the movie.
Yeah.
When that's when first Steve first brings his concept of the suit to Howard, and then that's his intro that shows the suit. It's like him busting through doors and he's shooting with a shield. That part was well done too.
Yeah. So, oh, and then the next we see of Peggy, she's coming back out of the portal, and then there's like tentacles. So like this whole time she was just fighting that guy. And she was like, where's Steve Rogers? And you see Nick Fury, and it's like, the war was over 70 years ago. And he's standing there next to Hawkeye.
And then
It's
she goes to see old Steve, and he's like, Peggy, it's been so long.
Yeah, so we get modern day Peggy, but then yeah, there's no other super soldiers because Bucky didn't get captured and neither did Steve. So
But maybe we have Iron Man Legions since then, because that suit was made earlier
so early.
than
Yeah.
So maybe we have variations of the Iron
And they
Man.
still have the Tesseract, so they could still experiment on a more sustainable battery.
also too, they were when they were taking her blood.
Oh, that's
they had the
right.
vials, yeah.
Mm.
It took a lot out of her. It's like 20 vials.
Some
Oh,
people,
you know what? She still disappeared prematurely, so maybe there still was an Isaiah Walker.
Mm.
they were saying too that like, I mean, I saw some things online saying that maybe because of all those blood vials, they do a bunch of different experiments, and then that could lead to whatchamacallit, Marvel Zombies, which
Oh,
is
that is one. Yeah, that's gonna be one, right?
what ifs, yeah.
Nice.
And then lead into the Avengers like team up.
Okay.
I don't
I
know.
did like this
Oh, I said Isaiah Walker. I meant Isaiah Bradley. Sorry.
Bradley, yeah. I did like this episode. I can see your point where like it's the nostalgia factor where they do a lot of callbacks to the original, but it's too similar for it to be unique. Whereas the second episode like kind of blew everything wide open.
So Peggy goes into the portal. So that means that she's in that portal for 70 years, right?
It's also
So
that
No,
time could move differently.
I thought no, I thought it was instantaneous, but she ended up at that timeline.
oh,
I thought that, I don't know if she was fighting for the whole 70 years or like when Fury opened it that it,
Oh, that's right, because she was fighting Shuma Gorath in there. That's right.
yeah. So I don't know if like maybe in the world that she was in, time passed differently because she didn't age at all.
Or
yeah.
maybe she went in there. There's no time in that portal where she's fighting the tentacle monster, and then she comes out to that timeline. So to her, no time really passed.
Yeah.
Uh, So that's what one of my questions was like, where do you guys think she went, or like why why do you think Nick Fury brought her out or something like that? Like how did he know to bring her out? You
Well,
know?
so that's the interesting part. So when they opened the portal, and she came out and she said, "Where's Steve Rogers?" It seemed instantaneous for her, like she had just like been fighting. And then Nick Fury kind of looked surprised to see her. And it wasn't until Hawkeye was like, "That's Captain Carter." And like they were like, "Oh shit, like we didn't even know she was there." It's more like it seemed that they were experimenting with the Tesseract and opened a portal, not knowing what was going to come out.
Mm, yeah. So then do you think there's gonna be a animated Loki? Like, cause in the movies Loki came out, you know?
But again, like they're doing tidbits of different multiverse. So I don't know that they would actually continue this particular storyline unless they did a combination.
Plus, I think they're saving all Loki stuff for the live action.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
because they have season 2. You're right.
So do you guys like how I guess what you were saying where the contrast of episode 1 where it's like it is kind of too similar to what we've seen in the MCU.
It's
Like,
not that big a branch off, is what my issue was with it. It's just someone else that's close to Steve that ends up becoming Captain America instead. Whereas the second one, it's like, whoa, T'Challa as Star Lord? That's freaking random.
okay.
But
So
it worked, and yeah,
you like it when it's more like kind of
out
random.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I feel like this whole season's going to be a mix of both, just again for the TVA, where it's like you could turn left instead of right, or you could
Mhm.
like bomb a school instead of
Right.
going to work. Like,
And I mean, it is still a what if. It's just like I want something that's the most divergent. Like I think the zombies is going to be the most divergent. That's the one I'm like really hyped to see.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So going into episode 2, I really like this one. So this whole thing was
I like this one.
the premise of this was, what if when Yondu was supposed to capture Ego's son and like return the son to him, he outsourced it to someone else, and that someone else like effed up basically. So we see T'Challa in Wakanda. He was like, until he was like maybe 8 or 10, like he was old enough to know like the workings of like, oh, why don't we like share this technology with the world? And then his dad was like, oh, there's only like evil and like war there, so like you're better off in our protected city.
That was definitely the voice actor. That was definitely the voice actor for T'Chaka. I could tell by the way he said blood.
Yeah.
Our people's blood. Like, dude, that's him.
John Connie.
I don't know. I could just definitely tell that was him.
This episode was good because they also had like a lot of the same voice actors too. So there was T'Chaka, there was obviously Chadwick Boseman. Who else was there? They had like
Okoye was in there, wasn't she?
Okoye was in there. Ego was in there.
Mhm.
Later we'll see.
It wasn't Chris Pratt though.
No.
No.
Later we'll see Thanos, Yondu, Karina. I think that's the same one.
Kraglin, I think that was the same guy.
Yeah, that was the same guy, that weird dude.
Nebula. That's all the same.
They got a lot. I feel like they got more for this cast than the other one, but only because it was a huge ensemble.
Like it. Yeah.
Oh, one last thing for episode 1 that I forgot to throw out there. They didn't identify it as Iron Man or War Machine. They called it Hydra Stomper. So I don't know if that's gonna like change the branding or anything. But anyway, yeah. So for this episode, like you see T'Challa really wants to like explore and like get out there and show the benefits, which is kind of what we see at the end of Black Panther. But like as an adult in the original timeline, he's kind of cautious, same as his dad, especially like after losing his dad in such a traumatic way. but in this one he's still young, so he like kind of ventures past the barrier of Wakanda that like keeps them hidden from the world. And that's when Yandu's men pick him up. And then Yandu is like, does this kid look like Ego's kid? And he like puts them side by side.
I like what that dude said. He was like, it's got 2 sea holes, 2 hear holes, and one eat hole.
He's like, all humans look the same to me.
The guy who plays Razorface, I think, or Taserface, I think that's the same guy too.
Taserface, yeah. Taserface. I remember.
But yeah, so it turns out that Yandu was kind of impressed with him. He was like, you don't seem like surprised or anything about what you're seeing here, because like it's a fully blue dude in front of you and like it's a spaceship. And he was like, oh, like I always wanted to explore the world. And he was like, oh, the world's nice, what about the universe? So he takes T'Challa under
He's like,
his
I'm a blue alien with a southern accent
and a red mohawk.
But he ain't your daddy.
I may not be your father, but I am your daddy. So yeah, in the way that he adopted Peter Quill, he adopts T'Challa and shows him the world. And then you see him as an adult, and it's the same intro. I was like, is he gonna start dancing also? Like, but so you see him in the intro of Guardians where like he's trying to get that orb, and then this like, instead of like, who's Star-Lord? Like, who's that guy? We've never heard of you. He was like, oh my God, Star-Lord, you're like Robin Hood.
Dude, Jimon Hansu did a great job as his voice acting. Like in Guardians, he was definitely gritty and like serious. In this one, he's the comedic relief, and so his like delivery is very hammed up, and it's perfect.
He was like, I still have to take this artifact from you, but should I put my gun down? The gun is fine. You could still
use the gun.
Yeah.
Like, do we bow? Do we?
We don't do that here. It's like, he was like, oh, I hit you, I'm sorry. And then T'Challa's like, do it again, but harder and faster. And then like, so T'Challa like beats them up, and then he's like, oh, I've hired worse. So he ends up taking the fanboy as a new recruit for the Ravengers.
I hella like that scene, because obviously all of us have seen, Guardians, and you expect Never Back Down guy to be like, like you expect him to do that, but then he's total opposite. And I just thought that was cool, because we're all like, okay, we're waiting for it, he's gonna do it again, but it was total opposite. So it was very entertaining.
Yeah.
This episode in particular is entertaining because it subverts all expectations for each character.
Yeah.
Every character, yeah.
For every character, yeah.
Yeah. So and then when T'Challa's leaving with the fanboy knocked out on his shoulder and then the artifact, he's like, again, like same as Peter Quill, was encountered by more bad guys. He was like, a Ravenger never flies solo. And then Yandu comes out and like takes all of them out with his whistly arrow. And then you find out that like the stuff that they steal, they're not guns for hire. Like T'Challa's whole mission statement of like making the world a better place actually made it like make the universe a better place. So the fanboy, huh?
The Robin Leeches.
Robin Hood. But yeah, so the whole like you take from the rich and like help those in need. Like he had been helping to save different galaxies basically, and then the fanboy after like they finish the mission, they go out for drinks and they're like, how did you do this? And like, you saved this dying star and you saved this. And he was like, how did you conquer the Mad King Thanos? And then Thanos pops out and he was like, he just had a really good argument.
That was so good, dude. T'Challa Star-Lord is basically Squirrel Girl, dude. He beats everybody. He's able to reason with even the most unreasonable.
Dude, to Star-Lord, that's his name, dude.
To Star-Lord.
When they're in the club, it like I hella was dying because it's just this huge ass like you just the bar. And then so pretty much from there too, like Never Back Down was like, he was like, how did you get the Mad Titan guy to not kill everybody? And then that's when Josh Brolin, you hear his voice, so it's really cool to see again. But then he basically just says that like T'Challa, to Star-Lord, basically convinced him to, what was it, to like allocate his resources or allocate resources better. Like he doesn't need to actually commit genocide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
Because
They're like,
he had been
um,
really
um,
helping different like dying stars and like different colonies and like helping aid people to fight like
what did Jimon Hansu call him? Like Captain Genocide
Captain
or something like
Genocide.
that? And he was like,
Like that
but
sounds
you
an awful
gotta,
lot like genocide. And he was like, no, it's just seeing things differently.
he's like, you gotta admit it's efficient.
Yeah. He was like, you just snap.
but it's just so funny to like see Thanos and to hear Josh Brolin's voice, but he's like smiling and he's
Yeah,
like,
right. Yeah, he was hella smiling. The character, I'm like, what is this so weird?
so
So you find out that Thanos is actually a Ravager, and he's like, he follows orders from T'Challa because like they have a mutual respect there where like, oh yeah, you know what? I didn't need to kill the whole universe or like half the universe.
yeah, he has to Star-Lord has that line where it's like, sometimes the best weapon in your arsenal is a good argument.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
I like when he went to pay for the drinks. He was like, your money's no good here. He's like, no, I insist. He was like, no, literally, we only take cash. And then it turns out to be what's his face?
Drax.
Drax,
Yeah.
but it would have been so much better if it was Batista. That was a
Yeah.
great scene too when he's like getting selfies with T'Challa.
Yeah. It was still funny because it's still the same kind of like, not
Personality.
human. Yeah, it's like it's the same personality where he's like very,
Oh, you
very
find and you find out T'Challa saved his family, so that's why he's so happy. Like
Yeah.
in that scene.
Like, I gotta send this picture to my wife and my daughter.
and he's still so honest where he's just like, you look hideous.
We have to retake that picture. I look great, but you look horrendous.
Yeah, I was hoping to hear Dave Bautista too, but
I know. So that whole interaction gets interrupted by Nebula. And you find out that she has hair and like her and Thanos are like kind of on speaking terms. Like they're not so like venomous to each other.
Yeah.
But
He
there's
only one eye is robotic too. So like you although they have kind of a weird relationship, he also
It's implied, yeah, it's implied that he was kind of an asshole to her for a while, but then after he changed from T'Challa, then he became better. But Nebula still remembers that part. or
yeah,
that-
and we didn't see any hint of Gamora, so it's possible he didn't even go and conquer her planet. So it was only Nebula.
He's supposed to be in a What If episode.
Okay. So it was only Nebula that he was like daughter, and then they're like, I'm adopted. And then T'Challa's like, I'm trying to get them in counseling. Like he's trying to mend the fences between them. And you find out that Nebula, who they draw her as Jessica Rabbit, like she has like a whole fluffy like hair and sultry and stuff. But
she didn't sound like Karen Gillan. But I think because her character in the movies has some kind of filter on her voice.
I think it's because when she was first cast, her accent was still really strong.
No, it wasn't. She hit it really well.
No, she hit it. She hit it well, but then like it was still kind of weird. It got better in the later movies.
No, her voice, like her delivery was like more ominous.
No, it was more whispery.
This one was hammed up, and her English accent was even better, so you could barely tell it was even her.
That's
Yeah,
true.
I didn't even know.
She's like, "Hi, Cha-Cha." She calls
Right?
him
Yeah,
Cha-Cha.
it was very sultry. Yeah.
So her whole thing was like, I found a great thing that we need to steal from the collector, because like a little like bit of seed can grow a rainforest or something. Like it can feed. They basically wanted to get it to end starvation throughout all.
They were basically stealing a T'Challa pet, dude. T'Challa.
Do you guys think that was like, is that supposed to be Groot, like eventually or something?
No,
Or like Groot's planet or whatever? I don't know.
I don't think so.
Okay.
But yeah, so her whole thing was like, oh yeah, the collector's like even more ruthless than before. And then Thanos shares like, when I stepped down as like, you know, the big bad, he filled the power vacuum. So the collector's like super jacked, and like his he still has a collection. We saw that in Guardians too, didn't we? The in the skull of a dead celestial.
Yeah, so that's still the same. That's still the same.
Those are the first Guardians.
Oh, it was in First Guardians, yeah. So the Celestial's still in the same place, has the same helper robot lady. But he employs the bad guys from Guardians 1, like all those like dark elf.
No. He gets the Black Order from
Black Order.
Thanos' adopted children is who's helping out.
Oh, you're right,
Collectors.
because the scientist guy was there.
Yeah.
You're right. So they're his like head of security basically. But their plan was that the other Avengers were going to start a riot, and then Yondu and Nebula were going to say like, oh, I have something to trade. And inside is going to be T'Challa. And then while everyone's distracted by the riot, T'Challa's going to break out and steal the seeds of Genesis, and then they're going to escape. And then to start a riot, Thanos starts beating up the new guy because he was like, never call me Captain Genocide. Or something like that. But as soon as the Dark Order see that it's the Ravengers, they're like, hold up, this is a distraction. Like they only do stuff for the good of people. So they're probably trying to steal something. And that's when they capture T'Challa, I think. They capture all the Ravengers, but T'Challa's like on the loose still.
Oh, what? Before he gets captured, he sees Seth Green's Howard the Duck.
Oh yeah. He was like, tell me
Yeah.
where the seeds of Genesis are. And he was like, you hang left, or he gave weird directions. He was like, just come with me and show me where it is.
He mentioned a bunch of Marvel stuff.
Yeah,
Like,
it's a
directions. I
lot of
forgot what it
jargon.
was.
Yeah.
So they are on their way to the seeds of Genesis, and then Howard the Duck gets distracted by the open bar. And then that's when the alarms sound because they're like, the Ravengers are here, like lock everything down. And then you find out that Nebula actually set them up. And the person that she was actually supposed to get for the collector was T'Challa. But while he's on the run, like she reveals this to Yondu, I think, but while he's on the run through the collection, his necklace starts reacting, and it turns out that there's a Wakanda ship there.
That was
Dude,
cool.
that was so cool. Like when just
Yeah.
watching it, and then you hear this.
But he enters the ship, and like it's interesting because you see all of the like regalia of whoever was flying the ship. Like he kept, yeah, he kept all the Dora's outfits and like everything super pristine. And then an automatic like projection comes up, and it turns out that it's his dad, and he's hella old, and he's like, we're looking for my son T'Challa, and if he's like in the stars, if you have any word of him, like come back to us, and if this is my son viewing it, like return to us. Like, but the whole time, like he thought that his whole country of Wakanda was decimated, because he said like Yondu once tried to return him because it was an honest mistake, and it turns out that like war killed the Wakandans and he had no home to return to. But then like seeing the projection, it was like, my dad's still alive, like they're looking for me. So he feels like super betrayed. And that's when the collector actually gets him in the box, right? And then
I think.
Oh no, they he gets put in with the rest of the Ravengers, and then Nebula talks one more time about like peace out. And then he confronts Yondu about like, you lied to me, like how could you tell me that my family was dead? And he's like, we're your family, you would have been stuck there, like you belong in the stars, because you wanted to like go explore. And then he's like, you're not my family. So it's that whole like clashing. And then that's when the guard knocks him out, takes him to the collector. And the collector was like, oh, I have this whole space on a wall and I need to fill it, but I'm sad that you're just human, like you can't like shoot lasers or something, like do something more interesting for my collection. He said no.
I
and
saw
yeah.
sorry, I thought maybe this was on purpose or not, or it was just some type of coincidence, but who knows with Marvel. But with when the collector is like, oh, you don't shoot lasers out of your eyes, you don't have super strength. But a little after the episode aired, that's when they released the Eternals final trailer. And there's a character on there who he's basically like Superman, but he does fly, he has super strength, and he shoots lasers out of his eyes. So people are saying like, was that a reference to the Eternals? I don't know.
I think that was
is that?
In
Is that a
the
real comic book character? The only person I know who can do that is Gladiator, the Shi'ar. But he's got like a big ass mohawk and he's blue. That wasn't him though, was it?
I think
No.
it was Icarus, the leader of the Eternals. But yeah, so T'Challa's captured in a box, and the collector's like bragging to him, and he breaks out by using his Wakanda necklace to like break the glass. And they go in through this whole fight montage, and the collector just keeps getting different weapons that he's collected, and we've seen all of them in the MCU. Like we see a dagger from the Dark Elves, and in the back you see Mjolnir and Cap's.
He didn't even reach for because he's not worthy. How did he get it on that wall though? He had to have Thor put it up there.
That's people are saying that maybe he got it before Odin did that enchantment.
Oh, nice. Okay.
But also too, he has all these rocks on his arm, which people are saying is Korg.
That was a Korg arm, right?
It looked like Korg's
It was
arm.
a Korg Nintendo glove, dude. Shit was crazy.
But yeah, so he fought with that glove, and then the Dark Elf knife from Thor, and then Mjolnir and the
He
shield.
didn't even reach for Mjolnir though. He was going for some. He got a Hela's
the sister's
yeah
dress and her what's it called, saber thing.
I think also it looked like it, but I don't know if it was for sure. But on the thing with all like Mjolnir and all that stuff, it looked like it was part of Thanos's
gauntlet.
The copter.
Oh yeah, the little spinny staff helicopter propeller thing. Yeah.
It looked like it. I don't know if that's what it was.
Yeah, so he was just beating on T'Challa with all these things, and like he was like, oh, that one's not good enough. He'd like call something else on his little gadget thing and like call another box down, and like this one I got from, like, showing off his collection while he's fighting T'Challa. But during this whole thing, Nebula goes back to the prison cell. They're like, what do you want now? And then she turns and shoots the guard, and she's like, I told T'Challa that this was all a ruse, because like the reason why she's even working with the collector is because he took her eye, and like that's the debt that she has for him. So she was like, I need to fulfill my debt and wipe the slate clean, but also like he has the seeds of Genesis, so it would be a good like switcheroo to like pretend that I'm really bringing you in. And she's like, I had no idea that there's a Wakanda ship there, so that was the thing that like threw a wrench in their plans. The rest of them still go and try to steal the seeds of Genesis, but then Yondu goes to back up his son, because he was like, there's no way I was gonna leave this ship without my boy. And then so him and Yondu,
that's when we saw when Black and Blue lives mattered.
Blue lives, dude.
Stupid. I'm wearing a space shirt today. But
also too, when this is going on, this is when they're escaping, right?
Yeah.
And then Thanos kind of he causes he helps them buy time so that everybody else can leave.
He was getting his ass whipped by the Black Order.
yeah.
Ooh, that shit was crazy. Oh, no. He had that cool line when it was just like, oh, are you crazy or something like that? And then he turns around and then he's like, no, I'm mad.
Yeah.
Then he punches that dude.
He's getting his ass whooped.
He's getting his ass whooped. My theory is that he still has the same powers, but he wasn't like super like he wasn't well versed in combat because he gave up his whole pursuit of taking half of life. So maybe that's why he wasn't so badass.
Yeah.
That fight scene was hella cool though. Like I really liked how the Black Order, they did basically team combos against Thanos, and then he did that like that Thanos yell when it was the same. Like, ah!
They did a similar fight combo that we saw in Avengers too, like when they're going up against Strange.
Yeah.
It's nice that their fight styles carried over. Like in the first episode, Peggy still had that stealth, and then in this episode, the Black Order still fights similarly.
Oh, and then also too, like I liked how T'Challa, even though he's to Star-Lord, he still kind of had Black Panther movements.
Yeah.
I thought that was cool, where it was still similar. Like you can still tell that he is Black Panther, you know?
Yeah. Oh, I forgot to mention, like, one of the ways that he kind of started to escape was that the collector's assistant, like, kind of let him get away with some stuff. And that's when he took out that scientist that Doctor Strange went up against in the movie. So that was the other Black Order person. Um, throughout the fight scene with the collector, eventually Yandu and T'Challa get a hold of the bracelet and they're able to trap him in a box of his own collection. And then they give it to the assistant and he's like, oh, I assume like you know what to do with this. And she unlocks the whole collection so that they could like whip his ass for keeping them in boxes. I can't remember other interesting things in his collection. There was a lot. They had a lot
I'm
animated.
sure they had a bunch of Easter eggs we didn't notice.
Yeah.
There was like, so Howard the Duck. There was a dark elf in there too. There was a scroll in there.
Oh, nice.
That's all I remember.
Terrence Howard was in there. It's like, have you seen Tony? Tony.
But in order to escape, because Thanos was getting his butt whooped, Nebula does go back and help him. And ultimately she releases, I don't know if it was all of the seeds or just some of the seeds of Genesis, but it grew like hella fast. And it basically destroyed like the entire island head planet thing that the collector was on, and created like a giant tree.
It was Jumanji, dude.
Yeah.
It was coming out of the sewer and like fireplace.
So miraculously, someone like all of them survive from their team. And then ultimately, there's a heart-to-heart between Yandu and T'Challa where it's like, I've done a lot of good here and like there's a lot of good I could do there also, but like I don't know where I belong anymore because like everything's a lie, like my family's still alive, like what do I do? And Yandu is like, I think you've proved that no matter where you are, you will always belong. It's just a matter of where you want to be. So it's like his personal choice of like what he wants to do with his life at this point. So they actually do go back to Wakanda, and his whole family's alive. Like his sister's there, his parents are both alive. And he just says like, your son's done a lot of good in the universe. Like he's a hero, and like the Ravengers and the Wakandans party. Thanos tries to convince them that it was efficient and not genocide. I think he's talking to Okoye.
Yeah.
And then Nebula's like, Dad.
And Kraglin too, he's talking to one of the Dora Milaje and he's like talking about the hyperspace jump, and then he said it makes your face scrambly and stuff like that. And that was just like I think in the second Guardians when they go to like hyperspace.
I think so.
Their faces get all.
And then he was saying like, what I'm trying to understand is how my son ended up on your ship to begin with. And then T'Challa kind of covers up and he was like, I was lost and he found me. And it kind of reminded me of like in Black Panther when like he was like lost, like the cousin, what's his face?
Oh, yeah, Killmonger.
He was like, yeah, how he's like not allowed in the afterlife with the rest of the people, and they're like, we're lost. And he was like, no, you're lost, like that whole thing. So it seems like he's still gonna stay with Yondu and like travel the stars, but also like visit Wakanda and live like a dual life with his two families. But we find out also that like for Peter Quill, there's still that whole subplot with Ego trying to like take him over to like become more powerful, because Ego goes himself and confronts Peter Quill like in a diner or something that he was working at.
Same diner, and then in the movie, I think.
Yeah. So that's the end of that episode. It was really good.
Pretty good series.
You think Peter Quill's gonna be bad then?
I think so. That'd be great.
So?
Because even the Watcher was saying like Ego going to see Peter Quill could spell disaster for the rest of that universe, but that's a story for another day. So there would be another episode exploring like, because he was impressionable to begin with in the movie, but it was Yondu that pulled him back from falling for all of that with Ego.
Also, this is he still has his like powers, because he, in the second Guardians when he defeats Ego, he gives up his powers, but in this one he still has his powers or potential for powers. So
yeah,
it'd be a threat.
Isn't Ego celestial?
I think so.
Yeah. So Peter Quill's half celestial.
So like really Peter Quill is up there in terms of power level, like in the MCU, but like I mean, I guess that also goes into the question that we talked about earlier, is like power levels, because if Ego is a celestial, the Celestials made the Eternals, but the Eternals are like a high beings basically that are watching all the humans and stuff like that. So it's like, I don't know, it's kind of
I guess it
confusing.
depends on how much of that half is expressed in his abilities. Because in the second one, he was like creating matter and stuff, but that was just when he was getting to learn his powers. So
Mm.
It's also like, I think his maturity level, like he has the power, but will he utilize it to be strong? It's like what we're saying about Wolverine in episode 1, where he has all this potential, he has all this fight knowledge, but he just is dumb. Just goes into a berserker barrage.
good series so far. What day does it premiere?
Wednesday.
Wednesday. Okay, cool. So next Wednesday. Nice.
But overall, I really liked this episode more than the first one, but still I think it's a great series. Like the first one, I still really enjoyed it, but this one was just so much better. But I'm excited for the rest of the series. I think it's going to be, and I think they've also said that there's a season 2.
Oh,
Oh,
nice.
nice.
Yeah,
It's
because I
definitely
think from what I've heard too, I think Peggy Carter is still going to be, or like I guess Haley Atwell is still going to voice Peggy Carter.
Oh, cool. So it's not just one-offs. They're actually doing like part 2s of the first episodes. That's pretty cool.
I think so.
That's pretty
it's
cool.
it's really smart, not just story writing, but just like timeline wise on Marvel's part. Like, because after Loki, it's like the whole thing is blown wide open. Where do you go from here? And then like just being able to explore, like, oh my God, what if that universe happened? And like, what if that was the really, like, it's interesting.
The second episode is a really good send-off for Chadwick Boseman. I'm kind of like, I don't know how they're gonna address him in the MCU. But like this is a good set. Like he was the hope of the universe, and it like you get the whole feeling it's not just for T'Challa. It's like it extends to Chadwick Boseman as well. Like that whole
Yeah.
feeling.
It changed, like he was able to change Yondu from being just
And Thanos, like everyone.
and Thanos, yeah, just like guns for hires, murderers, like genocide. And he's like, there's so much good that you could do instead. And like he's just did a lot. And like just that conversation with him and Yondu at the end, where it's like, wherever you go, like you will always bring good. And it was like
His whole character was it was refreshing. It was a departure from the usual T'Challa we get. He was almost Peter Parker-ish in his like optimism.
Yeah.
It was nice.
And I think this is like I don't think this episode. I don't think this episode is the last time we're gonna see or hear Chadwick. Like I
You think so?
I think he's gonna be recurring in this season. But
Oh snap! That'd be cool if he did more episodes.
I think so, because I'm pretty sure they're doing like an Avengers type what if, where they collect all the what if characters.
Oh, that's sick.
And I mean, I would think that would also include T'Challa. So
when they said in loving memory, I was like, I already know what it's gonna say. And I already started like tearing up. Like it was really impactful, that episode.
So Matt, you had a what if scenario?
Yeah, it's short notice, so you guys don't have to do one. But my what if has to do with the Punisher, of course. It's my favorite. But since the Punisher in this MCU in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, his war, instead of being Vietnam, was set during the Afghanistan war, so it makes more sense in this timeline. But my what if is, what if Cap, when he came back, fought in Afghanistan, and at some point he met with like Frank Castle, and they kind of bonded, because in the comics Punisher is a Captain America stan. And then what if after Cap like leaves or hangs it up, he gives the shield to Frank and he becomes Captain America, kind of like in the comics. I would like to see that cartoon. That'd be sick.
Nice.
If he kind of like reforms Frank so that he's not a vigilante anymore, he kind of gives up the guns and he picks up the shield. That would have been, because in the comics, I think when he becomes Cap, he still uses the guns and shit. But it would have been cool to see that in this cartoon like format. That would have been cool.
I thought you were gonna say, what if Daredevil could see?
I'm just gonna be a lawyer.
Ouch.
I couldn't really think of a specific one, but I was just kind of thinking of like basically just what if the bad guys won, like in certain movies. Like
that'd be cool.
Well, what's a good one? I mean, we kind of saw the Thanos actually winning a little bit. I don't know. I can't really think of one.
What if we had a good Avengers movie, or not Avengers, Fantastic Four movie?
You never know. That could be coming to the MCU.
Yeah.
They're gonna be just about like the alternate reality. It's gonna be.
What if Tony Stark was king?
Oh.
Remember I mentioned that one theory where like the descendant? Yeah. Or like, what if Wolverine Origins was a bad movie?
Oh, so it was good.
Yeah, I don't know. I would have said something related to the Spider-Verse, but they did Into the Spider-Verse, which basically covered all of those what ifs.
And it's coming to the MCU. So.
Oh, true. That's it for today's episode of Maganda Forever podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Monica.
I'm Matt.
I'm Vince.
And next week, we're just going to cover the next what if. Is that all we're covering?
That's it.
Maybe talk speculation for upcoming movies. We didn't really talk about the Eternals trailer, so.
Oh, we can cover that. I haven't seen it yet, so.
Yeah. Okay, cool. See you next week.
I'm not Wakandan, but my bionic arm enhanced. Just say the words, I'm activated like a Nazi trance. Catch vibranium into your cranium, wanna glance. Full body cast from a Cyclops optic blast. I doubt you crews prepared for this hit. Catch a glimpse of who I'm with, have you scared of the clip? No heart-shaped herbs or any terrigen myths. I'm taking out your ankles on some anti-carrion shit.